Let's go New England Patriots, though, to wrap up the AFC East. No offense to the Patriots, but expectations are lower in New England. Bill Belichick is out. Drake Maye is coming in at quarterback. Jerod Mayo is the new head coach. A coaching staff that used to just be really small, and Belichick's inner circle essentially of coaching staff is now Jerod Mayo pulling people from all over the place as coordinators, as position coaches. So massive transition year in New England. Early reports out of camp, the offense had been struggling. Jacoby Brissett was supposed to be the bridge quarterback, but it seems like as of record time, Drake Maye, on his way maybe to getting an opportunity to start. We'll see what ends up happening, but what are you looking for here for the Patriots this season?
Yeah, they were an interesting team this offseason. Obviously, getting rid of Bill Belichick, so everything is different now. And part of that was their position at the top of the draft. Are they going to trade out? Are they going to get the quarterback next year? Are they going to try and assemble draft capital, bring in an impact player somewhere else, and then come back next year for the quarterback? Instead, they stayed at number 3, despite apparently having some pretty significant trade offers to move out of that spot. They were like, no. We'll take our guy. We'll get Drake Maye. Some people had Drake Maye as the top quarterback in the draft. A lot of people had him as the number 2, and they end up getting a number 3 overall. Theoretically, from that perspective, you could see that as really good value. But now the question became, but is the situation around Drake Maye so bad that he doesn't have a shot as a rookie? And that, I think, is really their question. Obviously, Jacoby Brissett is what he is, which is backup/bridge quarterback at this point in his career. So the starting question is not, is Jacoby Brissett the guy? The question is simply, when is Drake Maye ready? And if he's ready, when is he actually going to get harmed by the situation that's around him, right? And that would be the concern. The wide receivers group is still iffy. That's why they were sniffing around Brandon Ayuk when that was a trade discussion. And Ayuk apparently didn't want any part of that because the situation is so bad. But that's what they're trying to do there, is jump forward. And then the offensive line, looks like a real weakness on paper. Pairing that with a rookie quarterback is a concern.
Yeah, it comes back to that discussion you and I always have is, when do you play the rookie quarterback? Do you ever put them into a situation that is detrimental to their development, or is it just, give them the reps? More reps are always better. But, look, I made this point around draft time. New England was left with one of the worst rosters in the NFL. That's what they've had the last couple of years. Now, on the defensive side of the ball, a lot of the Belichick regime picks they've re-signed. There's a group of solid players that have a nucleus on that side of the ball that is not bad. But the offense is the same offense that essentially ran Mac Jones out of town. The similar offensive line. The same question marks at receiver or general playmaker. And so, those are fair questions. Vidarian Lowe might be playing left tackle this year for the Patriots. Third rounder Caden Wallace was a fine starter at Penn State, but is he ready to be a starter? Chuks Okorafor essentially got benched in Pittsburgh last year after 5 average to below average years as a starter. Is he going to be the starting right tackle? Is he going to be the answer? So those are the types of offensive line questions that New England has this year. And then at receiver, a lot of buzz for the young guys, Javon Baker and Jalen Polk. And at some point they could be the guy, but I don't think either one's a true one. I don't think, they're just, they're nice developmental rookies that are probably going to see some time this year. Demario Douglas gets the most hype around camp and was awesome last year as a rookie, as a slot playmaker. So some intriguing pieces, but, there's still multiple pieces away. Offensive line, pass catcher, multiple pieces away from feeling like, hey, Drake Maye has as good of a situation as name the other rookie, right? It's not as good as Caleb Williams. It's not as good as Jaden Daniels or J.J. McCarthy or even Bo Nix. So, New England's got to figure out if they really want Jacoby Brissett. Would you want him as the bridge, or would you want Drake Maye to just go out there, take his lumps, and go and see if maybe he's special and can overcome it right away? We don't know.
And as much as you said, look, you feel better about the defensive side because they're bringing back a lot of the guys. There's a lot of continuity there. The new variable, though, is that Belichick is no longer there. And,
right.
Belichick, the GM, was always criticized as having let down Belichick, the coach. even if you want to subdivide it even further, like Belichick, the defensive coordinator, I think was the best of all of the Belichicks, right? Like the defensive coach version of Belichick never lost his teeth. That defense was always overachieving relative to the talent that you look like on paper. And they for 20 years, he was bringing in these guys that were one-dimensional or seemingly flawed in some way, shape, or form, and making them outperform what they would anywhere else within his defense. Or guys would leave and kind of go get a payday and then not succeed or come back. And, Belichick was able to get the best out of these guys. That's gone now. So maybe these guys will be able to continue that level of play in a new defense or for new coaches, but maybe they won't. And suddenly these like flawed players or guys that have a weakness or a specific strength, they're just not playing. They're not being put in a position as well as they were under Belichick. And that, I think, is a real question that, like, we feel good about the defense overall. It might not be the case. And maybe you have a team that not only is it bad on offense, but it might be a lot worse than we're expecting it to be on defense.
I would also highlight sometimes the PFF grades are a little bit, have a difference of opinion from, locking those guys up long term. I think Kyle Duggar is a fun safety who, plays that, do it all type of role, but he had some really rough reps in man coverage last year. Devon Godshaw, they see as a cornerstone nose tackle for that defense. I think he gets moved off the point of attack way more than most nose tackles do. I mean, he's got some good plays in there too, but he's not a hold the point nose either, and he's going to be, up in that $8 to $10 million range, right? So, I think there are some questions on the defensive side of the ball. It's also not really star laden, unless Christian Gonzalez had a really nice start to his career 2 weeks in. He's a former first round pick with all the tools to be a star corner, but you still have to see it. We have to see that production. So, look, I'm not terribly worried about the defense this year. I think they'll still be solid even without Belichick. It just comes down to me for the offense. And if we get into best and worst case scenario, how would you even position that this year for New England? What are you looking for? Is it just based around Drake Maye and showing some signs of, some sort of positive development heading into 2025?
Yeah, like some kind of respectability for the team. Just don't be the number one overall pick. And yeah, coming out of the season feeling good about Drake Maye, whether or not it's resulted in a ton of wins, like just coming next offseason, there's no question. Drake Maye has been the guy. Sure, it wasn't the greatest season. We need to upgrade talent around him, but he's our guy. And at least, we weren't the worst team in the NFL. That's basically what they're shooting for this year.
Yeah, I think specifically around May, it felt like some of the criticism of him went a little too far, because a lot of the criticism was on some of the layups, on some of the easy stuff. I mean, I saw it on film. I was like, come on, man, why are you just bouncing a swing pass? Why are you missing a little stick route? But I remember back, like, that was the same stuff I was mad at Josh Allen for watching film. I get mad when I watch film sometimes, Sam. My wife will hear me yelling from across the room, like, how are you missing that? What are you doing? Like, that was the type of stuff that came up with May. But you see the playmaking ability, great throws inside the pocket, great throws outside the pocket. And it's like, man, if you just tidy up some of the layups, your footwork, some of the stuff where as you have more time to work on this stuff, it should get better. I want to see progress in that area. And look, it's very early in the preseason right now, but I feel like you do see incremental steps in his development where some of the other quarterbacks, maybe as soon as they stepped on the field in the preseason, you said, okay, they look a little cleaner. May has a chance, I think, to make the most improvement this season, and that's what I want to see. And it could be probably the most positive development for New England this year.
Yeah, pre-draft analysis tends to take on a momentum all of itself. I think the initial push for Drake Maye was actually correct. Like, he started off kind of 1/1A with Caleb Williams at the top of this draft. In consensus terms, it was like, maybe he could be the top quarterback in the draft. And I think that was never the case. Like, Caleb Williams was always significantly better, I think, as a prospect than Drake Maye. So the initial instinct of let's push back against that made sense, right? Let's actually separate the two. Let's bring down Drake Maye a little bit because he's not where Caleb Williams is. But then that just kept going. And it's like, let's keep bringing him down. Let's keep chipping away at this. And actually, he's not even number 2. Now he might not be number 3. Like, let's just keep tearing him down. Like, at some point, it's like, no, okay, come on. We've gone too far, right? Like, he's still a really good prospect. He still has all the tools. He's still big, strong, has an arm, can make all the throws, has some special within his range of outcomes. Like, yeah, there's some things that are frustrating, and that's why he's not where Caleb Williams is. But let's not go overboard here. He's still a really good prospect who has a ton of upside and was working with less help, by the way, than most of these other quarterbacks in college. So, let's tap the brakes on how much we're tearing him down.
Yeah, I mean, I agree, man. I think Drake Maye has a chance. It might take a little bit of time. I'm interested to see his development this year. I'm still on record as saying you don't play the rookie until you think he's ready. I think you take the situation into account. We'll see how they end up playing the whole thing out. But worst case scenario is, it looks like last year, right? I mean, it's team picking number 3 overall with a similar roster and a rookie quarterback or a bridge quarterback, right? So worst case scenario is it looks a lot like last year.
I mean, worst case scenario, I think, is the number 1 overall pick. Like, I think this could be the worst team in football if things go badly.
And there's reason, like, it's first-time head coach, first-time play caller on offense, right? A mishmash of coaches coming from all different systems and everything. It might even just take a year to gel. And Jerod Mayo getting used to the job. It is a big leap for Jerod Mayo taking over again in this situation. So it could be a rough year for New England. The other piece, best case, is you get one of those like Brian Daboll's first year. I know they made the playoffs, but it just felt like the team played better than they should have. Like, if you start to get those vibes coming out of New England, that they're just overachieving or Mayo's getting the best out of the group, I think that's another potential positive outcome you could get out of this season. Any key position, key player that you're looking at here this year?
Well, you said before, right, that you don't play the rookie until he's ready. I would also suggest that you might add a clause, like a secondary clause to that, which is you don't play the rookie until he's ready or until Vidarian Lowe is no longer your left tackle. That would be clause number 2 in my when do I start the rookie quarterback thing. Offensive tackle, I think, is the big thing. Like, we could focus on wide receiver. Obviously, Drake Maye is the critical player for this team, but that might be the single most determining factor. Like, when do I even want Drake Maye on the field? My first question is, who are my offensive tackles? As long as those guys are who they are, I don't know that you want Drake Maye out there at all.
No, I completely agree. I mean, the offensive line, and it should, they say it won't, but that should have some sort of, it should be part of the decision as to what you do with Drake Maye. The other person that I want to keep an eye on is Keon White, former second-round edge rusher. Now that they've traded Matthew Judon, a little bit more on Keon White's plate. Didn't play a whole lot as a rookie. Showed some of those flashes. He's a former tight end. Went from Old Dominion to Georgia Tech. Still felt like he needed to learn how to play football, right? He was just a bowling ball. You loved watching his film, right? He's just trying to run through tackles. But he has enough power to do it, even at the NFL level. If he refines his game, Keon White has a ton of potential. So I think we'll finally get to see more reps of Keon White and what he can do. Big development season for him.
I never actually made this comp during draft time. I had an even more ridiculous comp for him. But back when I was playing in the Irish League, I played with a guy who literally didn't know what a down was, right? He played defensive tackle. And it was like halfway through his rookie season, he asked somebody in the huddle what a down was, right? Because he'd just basically been told, like, just go get the guy with the ball, right? Don't worry about anything else. Just go get the guy with the ball. That was Keon Coleman in college, right? It's like he had no earthly idea what he was doing. They were just like, just go whoop the guy in front of you, get the guy with the ball. Go get the ball. Like that, like Daniel Bateman from The Replacements, right? It's just like on the sideline, grab him by the face mask, like, go get the ball. Like, launch it, let him loose. That's what Keon Coleman was like in college.
The implication is that you think Keon White didn't know what a down was in college.
I just
based off that story.
His tape. I'm not saying he's dumb. I'm not saying he, didn't have any clue what he was doing, but he played the game like somebody that did not have a high level of like knowledge, sophistication, technique, ways to win. He was just an athletic monster who was just like let loose on an offense.
A tight end transitioning to edge. to the edge
Right.
and rushing the passer. Yeah, absolutely.